Nancy's going to record also. I am plugged in.
I am plugged in too.
I'm plugged in. Welcome,
All right.
everyone. So
Good to
beautiful
see
to
you.
be with you on this Soul Field Sunday. So many of you here with us live. And for those of you joining us in the Eternal Now via recording, we're so glad you're here.
Yes. All right. So let's dive into the soul field together. Let's start by lighting our candles. And as we light our candles, we allow ourselves to surrender and swim into the ocean of the soul field, or whatever you want to call that. I call it the ocean because to me it's so expensive. And I'm calling forth the temple of divine perfection. So whatever you want to release there, whatever you want to drop and be transformed, transmuted, you can leave it there, or to be held for now so you can be present here with us. And the soul field is such a magnificent space as it goes beyond our thoughts. It goes beyond our emotions, our day-to-day problems. It's a space where we can merge and connect through our hearts with our egos getting in the way. So thank you everybody for joining us. And we'll start with our opening prayer. You can see that, Luminaria?
Yeah.
Okay.
We come with reverent, grateful, and open hearts to drink from the deep well of our eternal nature. As we dive into the soul field together, we are held within a sacred and holy embrace by the source of all love, light, and grace. In this eternal now, we actively invoke our unique pathways to source and the beings of love light that support our divine evolving. We allow our mind, body, spirit to expand into the holy realms where magic and miracles are commonplace. As we minister to ourselves, we minister to one another and our family humanity. We recognize we are one in the holy wholeness. We allow all we do here today to ripple out through our lives as a living witness of divine grace for the benefit of all our relations.
Venimos con corazones agradecidos, reverentes y abiertos a beber del profundo pozo de nuestra naturaleza eterna. A medida que nos sumergimos juntos aquí en el campo del alma, amor, luz y gracia divina. En este ahora eterno, pedimos que se abran nuestros caminos hacia el Creador, junto con los seres de luz y amor que apoyan nuestra evolución divina. Permitimos que nuestra mente, cuerpo y espíritu se expandan hacia los reinos sagrados donde la magia y los milagros ocurren constantemente. A medida que atendemos nuestras propias necesidades, asimismo atendemos el uno al otro y a toda nuestra familia humana, reconociendo que somos uno en la totalidad sagrada. Permitamos que todo lo que se haga aquí hoy continúe fluyendo en nuestras vidas como un testimonio vivo de la gracia divina para el beneficio de todos. It's so beautiful. Every time we gather and we have these communions and retreats, etc., these words just make more and more sense. They're just anchoring more and more in my heart. And so maybe before we start talking a little bit, type in the chat what is showing up for you today. What's your desire, your yearning? What prayers can we hold together? So just put in the chat so we can start our soul field gathering with that intention, and we can hold it for you as well if you need us to.
Yeah. We are Yeah, beautiful. Thank you all for putting your intentions there. We can affirm them together. What you're wanting support around, what you're focusing on, what you're bringing today. And we're going to continue with our mini series. This will probably be our last session of this mini series that we've been on about activating our true self-worth and living in soul reverence. And today we're going to talk about, like, how do we revere ourselves? Like, what does it look like in day-to-day living? What does it look like to be in soul reverence in a day-to-day experience? And so we'll begin with our affirmations and using thymus thump or ear rub, or alternating between, and we'll affirm what we are co-creating together.
Yes. I am
Nancy's
going to
pulling
pull
it
it
up
up.
for us.
I'm working on it. And so the way that we are going to affirm this in the body is by tapping the the thymus thumb or rubbing the earlobes to activate all of the circuits in our system, our energetic system, acupressure points or meridians. So let's start with the first sentence. I'll say it out loud and you repeat it out loud, and we'll repeat the whole affirmation page 3 times. I release with grace the cultural imperatives and captivity that caused me to live outside of my authenticity.
I release with grace the cultural imperatives and captivity that cause me to live outside of my authenticity.
I open to the pleasure that arises from this freedom.
I open to the pleasure that arises from this freedom.
I joyfully claim full responsibility for living the power of my I am presence.
I joyfully claim full responsibility for living the power of my I am presence.
As I remember and revere who I truly am, my embodiment encourages others to honor and live their true self-worth.
As I remember and revere who I truly am, my embodiment encourages others to honor and live their true self-worth.
I release with grace the cultural imperatives and captivity that cause me to live outside of my authenticity.
I release with grace the cultural imperatives and captivity that cause me to live outside of my authenticity.
I open to the pleasure that arises from this freedom.
I open to the pleasure that arises from this freedom.
I joyfully claim full responsibility for living the power of my I am presence.
I joyfully claim full responsibility for living the power of my I am presence.
As I remember and revere who I truly am, my embodiment encourages others to honor and live their true self-worth.
As I remember and revere who I truly am, my embodiment encourages others to honor and live their true self-worth.
I release with grace the cultural imperatives and captivity that cause me to live outside of my authenticity.
I release with grace the cultural imperatives and captivity that cause me to live outside of my authenticity.
I open to the pleasure that arises from this freedom.
I open to the pleasure that arises from this freedom.
I joyfully claim full responsibility for living the power of my I am presence.
I joyfully claim full responsibility for living the power of my I am presence.
As I remember and revere who I truly am, my embodiment encourages others to honor and live their true self-worth.
As I remember and revere who I truly am, my embodiment encourages others to live their true self-worth.
Mhm.
What do you notice about how your body feels right now? Maybe you can put it in the chat. Just, I notice personally calibration, and I could feel I'm in traveling today. I could feel this sort of like emanating through the spaces where I am, bringing light and love. So I feel us like emanating that out. It's really amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah. More relaxation, resting into sacred support, grounding. Yeah.
Mhm.
Calm, grounding. Yeah,
Mhm.
remembering grounds us, it calms us. And this is actually part of like exactly what we're talking about today. So you'll hear that theme come back in. So, in this place about what does it look like to revere ourselves in day-to-day living? Like, how do we do that? One of the places
Mhm.
we start, and this is actually this place, speaking about living outside of the cultural imperatives and captivity, this concept that Nancy and I are about to bring forward, that's probably not new to any of you who've been with us for a while, is actually quite radical because it's very opposite of the cultural mind, which is that you are actually already in a perfect divine unfolding. You are in perfect harmony with what you came to do. Like everything happening is in service to you, everything is supporting you. It doesn't mean we don't have challenges. It doesn't mean that there aren't things that are happening that are really there for us to grow from, or that ways that we are, showing up that are needing our attention. But it really is like the very essence and nature of your nature is a perfect unfolding.
Mhm. And everything that has been happening all throughout your lives and all of the changes that may seem so hard to um, face because it's not the way that our mind thinks things should go. All of those changes that are happening in our lives are calibrating us, are
Mm.
making us more harmonious. Even before some of you went to the retreat, things were changing for you. And during the retreat, things started to change and internally. And so everything that is happening is in divine perfection, right? Um, I think that at times what gets in the way is our limited thinking, our mind that says, this is how this is the way that life should go according to the way I was raised or according to societal structures or all of that. And so living in that authenticity means also opening your mind. It means tapping into something bigger than us.
Mhm.
It means releasing judgment. It means letting go of attachments and really and be in harmony with all
Yeah.
of that.
We have a tendency to like really think we should be somewhere else. Like we should be further along, or I'm supposed to be in this other place. This is not where I'm supposed to be or what's supposed to be happening. And because we have a lot of preconceived ideas, and those are sort of like, cultural implants that come in and tell us, how a process is supposed to go, or like it was like that for that person, so it should be like that for me, or so and so said that's how it goes. And so it's really about recognizing in the moment, like stopping, attuning, recognizing in the moment, like I'm right where I need to be. Things are happening just as they need to happen. And then to open, to be curious, like if it's uncomfortable for us in some ways, and like, let me understand this, right? When I was in
Yeah.
graduate school and trying to finish my dissertation, I was doing a research study, and I needed middle school kids. And it's really hard to get into the schools to do research. You would think it would be easier and they would be sort of like interested, but it's actually not. And so it took me a long time to find a school willing. And I was living in San Diego at the time. And there was a school shooting in Santana. Some people have probably heard of the Santana school shooting. And the school district that I was going to use to run my subjects pulled out. They said, we don't want any conversation about juvenile delinquency. That was what my research was on, and peer relationships. And so they pulled out. And it took me almost 2 years to find another place to actually do my study. But what was happening in that time frame was a radical reorganization of my life, a radical recalibration from my sort of like driven perfectionist, overachiever, clinical psychology self, to softening that, opening that, and merging that with my mystical nature that has been, part of my birthright from the jump. And so it was a way, it's like I had all these judgments about myself and why I couldn't get it done and what was happening and what was wrong with me. And maybe there was like supernatural energy and or feel like I had a million stories about why it wasn't working. But what was really happening that I could only see much after the fact was spirit incubating me, preparing me to move out into the world as I truly was meant to, in a way that I wouldn't have if I had just gotten it done and graduated when I was in that mode and on that train, which was a needed train. There's nothing wrong with it, but I wasn't supposed to stay on that train, and I would have stayed on it. Right.
Yeah. And when we're guided, sometimes we don't want to listen. And and sometimes guidance gets a little louder, and gets a little more strong and a little stronger and kicks us in our butts and makes us see things, right? And so revering ourselves means that we allow ourselves to listen, that we allow ourselves to swim in that water of knowledge and wisdom that lives within us and is able to show us. I mean, it's very esoteric, right, to say it like that, but the truth is that in every single moment, day to day, we are guided if we listen. We're
Exactly.
really guided, like from the moment that you pick the clothes that you're going to wear. And you may not see it reflected that same day, but I know, like I can't remember the example right now, but I remember I have grabbed something. Oh, I can say one. Sandy was so guided to, sorry, scratch that part. She was so guided. One of the participants of the retreat was guided to bring this tripod and lights, and she listened and she did it, and she was like, I'm going to flow with this, and I don't understand it, but I'm still going to do it. So as simple as those things, as simple as a tripod, bringing a tripod, that's how we're guided. That's how we are giving ourselves permission. And that's also how we're honoring the spiritual beings that we are, honoring the intuitive beings that we are. We are doing it by really listening. If I were to deny it, if I were to judge it, if I were to say, oh, that's BS, oh, that doesn't happen, or whatever, I'm just going to do what I want, I'm really not revering the sanctity of my connection to spirit, to source. And so it's very tricky though, because our mind confuses us. Our mind fills us up with judgments or the culturation or doubts. And so allowing ourselves to experience spirit means that we have to also revere our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take care of our bodies. We have to nourish our bodies because our bodies are the main antenna.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our mind can tell us a lot of things, and during the retreat, we worked on some of those things and letting go of the mind for a moment, the mind field, and tapping into the wisdom that our bodies have to
Yeah.
be able to recognize those messages, without effort.
Nancy's speaking to a way of living where we are sort of in the flow with our true self versus going against the grain of it, right? So then that example I used, there was a part of me going against the grain of my true self. I had taken on the cultural mind so much, and there was an importance to that on a certain level to get me through that place of working so hard to get a PhD, right? Like that requires a certain amount of taking on that like driven, focused, na energy. And yet that was against the true grain of me. And so spirit was knocking on the door by putting these seeming roadblocks to get me to recalibrate. When we do that, then we enter into the space that Nancy's speaking of, where there's great listening. And in that, we move into flow and grace. And then we're in this place where we're merging the experience of like chop wood, carry water, as the saying goes, with that exquisite place of our knowingness, of our connection to our sacredness, of our remembrance that there is a divine and holy embrace that we're held in while we're chopping wood and carrying water.
Yeah.
And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Mm. And sometimes it requires a sacrifice, right? Sacrifice, I'm putting in quotes, because we think we're sacrificing, right? When like I remember when that was a big sacrifice. Her whole life had to be moved up. Um, Even like for me, I wanted to go to this school for my PhD, but I was guided to go to this other school. And all of those things require that we let go of what we think is right and let go of the comfort that we have, and allow guidance to really show us what's next. When I moved back to San Diego, I was guided to live by Balboa Park, and I've never, ever, ever considered it. But I said, okay. And it has been wonderful, like really wonderful for me. And I've never, ever considered it before. But I had to shift my mind. I had to allow myself to know that my mind doesn't know it all, that my mind is limited. And if I can surrender is the word that comes up. If I can surrender, then I let guidance show me.
Yeah.
And it's hard because we still live in this 3D world, right? We could be in this elevated space, but we also have to pay bills. And we also have to, drive in traffic and deal with coworkers, that we might not be happy with, or deal with health issues or loved ones and things like that. So how do we balance, right? How do we ground ourselves? How do we still revere ourselves and live in a world that may not match how we're feeling and experiencing?
And so part of what we're doing is, if we can, in the midst of it all, like, remember our sacredness and remember the sacredness in all things. Like, if we can put on the glasses of seeing the divine in everything, that includes, something going on at the level of body. It includes something going on at the level of relationship. It includes something happening sort of in the outer space. We can really start shifting what happens. We can actually start changing the field. And for some of you who are with us live and via recording, you were at the Soulfield Mystical Women's Retreat a weekend or so ago, and you had a very big expansion in consciousness. And sometimes when we have those big expansions, something really opens in us. There's a phase, a time space that we go through where we're literally learning at the level of our brain how to be in that spherical sacred consciousness, and also in the linear directed consciousness. And sort of like, we live in a directional consciousness culture, and we don't live so much in a spherical culture. So this experience of trying to see what's happening in the mind, where we have this expansion and then we're trying to go back into life. And what will often happen is a period of what we call tempering. And so from a perspective, I think a great way to describe it is using, I used to be a raw food person, and I still love raw food, but when you're making chocolate, for example, and you want it to be raw, it's very specific because in order to make it stable at room temperature, you have to heat it to a very particular temperature and then cool it to a very particular temperature and then heat it and then cool it. And this is part of what's happening for us when we're in a period of expanding our capacity to hold the sacred, is that we sort of expand and then we have a little, and it's trying to stabilize us, right? It's trying to stabilize us so that we can live in a directional way with those intuitive connections that Nancy's speaking of fully online, with the remembrance and the truth of our light fully online, with the remembrance of the divinity in all things fully online. And that takes a while for the biospiritual system to calibrate to.
Yeah. And the mind doesn't understand. The mind lives in this world of material things and only has a certain amount of knowledge. It doesn't know the miracles that can happen, the expansiveness that we can achieve. The mind doesn't know that until when we are balancing. I love when Luminaria says, um, like one time she was like, hold on, I'm still on my spherical consciousness. I haven't landed in my directional consciousness. I love when she said that because that gave me a perspective of I haven't grounded myself yet. And my daughter would say something like that too, where she would be like, hang on, I'm not awake yet, instead of like living in that world of dreams and magic. And so how do we shorten the gap, right? How do we shorten the gap between this world and that world? And I would say that, like Luminaria said earlier, seeing the divine in everything. And it's hard, when someone is fighting with you or you're feeling triggered by something, it's hard to see the divine in that. It's really hard. Um, but with practice and surrounding ourselves with beauty, surrounding ourselves with people that can support, but also what we feed our minds, what we feed the ease that we can bring into our lives. I
Mhm.
think all of that helps us stay connected, grounded, and connected at the same time.
Mhm.
Going to a beautiful creek and meditating in the snow and the freezing temperatures, like someone did recently,
Yeah.
and bringing that to your life to stay connected, creating an altar, using those techniques.
Mhm.
Uh,
Nature is a powerful place for us because it invites us into, if we really connect with nature, it invites us into the remembrance of our nature. And it invites us into the remembrance of the sacredness of life. It's like just by its very presence and our connection with it, it's a powerful remembrance. People very often find their divinity there, right? And so, you know, there are these ways that we navigate between the worlds. And Nancy was speaking of like what you're feeding yourself, not just food, but what you're taking in with your eyes and your ears and who is around you. But also, you can do things. You've been given techniques and tools from us in the soul field for basic energy balance. Certain meditations can help. Having a daily meditation practice, whatever that looks like, could be sitting in nature, could be, singing praises, it could be sitting in silence, but some kind of stillness where you're not other thinging. If you have a
yes.
daily practice of that, it will help you integrate the both,
Yeah.
the both, both sides of the brain, and
Yes.
and
And
help you integrate the divine mind.
and using your essential oils or taking your elixirs or praying over the food or seeing beauty in every person. We're so used to living in fear that sometimes we forget to see the light and the beauty in others. And
Mhm.
so that's that's definitely part of staying in reverence to you. And of course, coming to our meditations and gatherings. That's an
Number
amazing
one.
place to number
Number one.
one.
So we're
Stay here connected to us.
we're going to shift into a little meditation to sort of do some of what we're speaking about. But before we do, we're going to describe a little bit. We're going to also invoke a sacred geometric light emanation
Can I
to
put it up?
facilitate. Yeah, that'd be great. This particular sacred geometric light emanation we call the Southern Cross ellipsoid. So these objects you see that look a little bit like blimps, one is oriented to the screen kind of to left and right, and one kind of up and down. These are shapes that are three-dimensional. They kind of might look two-dimensional here, but they're three-dimensional shapes. And if you were to imagine you'd be like a little kind of, Nancy, if you put your cursor right in the middle of those, right, you'd be sort of right there where that little plus sign is. And so they're very big. And the energy of an ellipsoid is the energetic of a sphere, which is sort of the representation of the holistic of something, elongated over a line. And in this case, we've got a line that's going to go left to right in relationship to our body. And in our dimensions, that's the experience of time or linear consciousness. And then we're going to have one that goes top to bottom, sort of top of crown, base of spine. And that is connected to soul. This is incarnate, disincarnate. And so it's like we're taking the holistic of our soul, the holistic of our linear consciousness, and like letting them have a conversation. We're going to invoke two flames, two ellipsoids on each axis. So two on the left to right that will superimpose in the same space, and two on the top to bottom. And I'm going to just speak really briefly about these. You don't have to remember this. These are, for those of you who have not worked with the sacred geometric light emanations before, these are intelligent light frequencies that come in form in and around the body. They will intercommunicate with your biospiritual system in the exact way that your system is needing. And it's not a visualization technique. This is an invocation. So we're actually going to be, when it's time after we're deep in meditation, we're actually going to call these in. And so we've got on that left to right axis the flame of myopic migration, which is really about willing to move just step by step along the pathway without knowing fully where it is. It's really about sacred trust. It's really about trusting your guidance. It's really about those kinds of leaps of faith that Nancy was speaking about earlier, of just like, okay, I'm doing that. And then the other flame that's going to be making up the ellipsoid on the left to right is the flame of ultimate gratitude. And as this sounds, this is about moving us into the remembrance that everything is for us and to open up the heart of gratitude. On that top to bottom axis, we're going to have the flame of divine adaptation, which is really about helping us to accommodate and shift and change with ease as we are invited to shift and change. And also the flame of rapid recovery and refreshment, which is about recalibration after big expansion, recalibration after trying times, moving us into a more complete way of coming into balance. When I was given this flame, I was shown these sort of like beautiful, sort of pinkish and orangish color, and it looked to me like raspberry and orange sherbet. And Spirit said, right, exactly. This is like a palate cleanser, an energetic palate cleanser, rapid recovery and refreshment. Whatever's happened before this moment, let's clear the palate. Let's start fresh. So
I love it.
these are the
So
energetics.
great.
So I think we can
And
take that down now when you're ready, Nance.
yes,
Thank you.
ready. Hmm. So as we are now, our mind knows information and has that visual, then we can allow our bodies now to bring the resonance of that sacred geometry light emanation. So let your thoughts and worries be placed in the temple of divine perfection. Just, put them there to hold or to be transmuted. And allow your body to relax and be in a comfortable position If possible, your spine straight. And connect to your breath. Connect to the energy of soul field. And let in your breath soften your exhales longer. Letting your mind relax. Letting your body attune.
And
Receive.
feel yourself coming into the back side of the heart, like your consciousness is sort of sliding down the back, back of neck, back of heart, mid back, low back, landing in the pelvic floor.
Allowing your body to ground into this magnificent earth. And the nourishment to float up your spine into the heavens and back into the earth.
You might actually feel the rhythm of your heart change as that happens. You become a conduit of grace, grounding grace in through your body into the earth and bringing the magnificence of earth up into your body, this bi-directional flow. You are in the center of it.
Revering the magnificence of who you are. You are more than this body, more than this mind, more than the culture.
And as Nancy speaks those words, you feel yourself opening even more into your sacred connection. Into the energetics of your I am presence. Feeling the pure light that you are.
Being cleansed and energized at the same time by this energy flow. Revering yourself, your light. Feeling the energy flowing through the back of your head. Up your spine, back of your head into the heavens.
You might be able to feel a sense of presence in the third eye, in the brow center, in the pineal gland. And there's a sacred relationship with the pineal gland and the very tip of the tailbone. And so with the simplicity of your intention, you can feel and intend these two to sort of notice each other. The tailbone says hello to the pineal, and the pineal says hello to the tailbone. And there's like, oh, yeah, there we are. You might feel that tailbone a little tight. You can give yourself a slight adjustment in the seat or a little tucking and releasing there to open and allow the tailbone to begin to be more alive. Yeah, that's better.
Connecting both worlds.
The majesty of your spherical consciousness and your capacity to be deeply grounded. They are opposite sides of the same coin, feeling that integration. And as you do, we begin to open with intention to receive the beneficial frequencies of the flames and geometry we're about to invoke. And so we call forth the flame of myopic migration, the flame that's burnt orange, goldish yellow, gray, white, blue, green, and brown, kind of almost like a mosaic of light, to form a three-dimensional ellipsoid of light around our bodies and energy fields, with the elongated portions of the ellipsoids oriented to the left and right of us. And this ellipsoid will be very big. As it comes into form, it'll begin to spin on that left to right axis in whatever way serves our greatest balance and harmonization. And we call forth the flame of ultimate gratitude, the flame of shimmering black light with flecks of every color running through it, to form a second ellipsoid of light on that same left to right axis. It'll be the same size as the first, superimposing in the exact same space. And as it comes into form, it too will begin to spin on that axis, left to right, in whatever way serves, maybe in the same way as the first ellipsoid, maybe differently, at a different pace or in a different direction. And we call forth the flame of divine adaptation, the flame that's all the colors of forest. It almost looks like camo light, to form another three-dimensional ellipsoid of light around our body and energy field with the elongated portions oriented to the top and bottom of the spine. And this will form a perfect cross or a plus sign with the other ellipsoid, same size. And it will begin to spin on that on that top to bottom axis, either around to the left or around to the right, in whatever way serves the greatest balance, activation, harmonization. And we call forth the flame of rapid recovery and refreshment, the flame that looks like raspberry and orange sherbet colored light, kind of lightly swirled together, to form a fourth ellipsoid of light, also on that top to bottom or crown to spine axis. And as that comes into form, it will superimpose with the other one and find its unique spin in whatever way serves our greatest balance. And you'll allow yourself to receive the ministration of these mentors of light. You may feel the spinning for a while, and that will subside once your body acclimates to the movement of the light. And as this is ministering to you, facilitating and supporting you. At some point, you'll hear us turn on the song that is our song for this series. You'll just let yourself receive that as part of the healing and awakening.
My mind is willing and my heart is open wide. I trust my instincts and let spirit be my guide. I vow to live a life that's real and pure and free. As I continue walking in this mystery, I surrender to my greatest, highest good. I release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith. And I am grateful every moment, every day. There may be walls, there may be roadblocks in my way, but I can choose to take a higher path each day. And now I know what I thought was safe and sound was only habit and regret that held me down. I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith. And I am kinder every moment, every day. I'm more loving every moment, every day. I surrender every moment, every day.
As you're gently making your way back, that was kind of a deep one. I definitely found it hard to start to pull myself forward. We can take a couple minutes if you'd like. I have the recording off. And just speak to what you're noticing. Anything that you would like to share that will facilitate, your integration, or the other people who are here with you live that might support them on their journey. You can just unmute yourself if you want to share something. Allison.
I'm still feeling kind of dizzy from it.
Mhm.
I felt a lot of kind of pressure on my left side, and then I felt like moving, which I did. And actually, I still feel like moving. I feel like dancing now.
Yeah, yeah. So when we are complete, or even now, I want to encourage you to follow that. The system knows what it needs. This biospiritual system that we all are given is so wise. And that dizzy can be part of the really reworking, and part of the spinning light in multiple directions, around us. So the body moving might really help that. The left side, it's interesting. So from a brain integration perspective, so we could say our left mind is our more linear mind. that side is getting worked probably a little bit more. And from the perspective of our like biospiritual system, it's our receiving side. And so it's like just, there's like, okay, the body is just wise. It knows what it's up to. Mhm. What else? Anybody else want to speak to anything they're noticing or experiencing?
Hello.
Mhm.
It's so good to see everybody.
Mhm.
It was really, really beautiful. Like the lights dancing, and then they almost like wrapped around my body and danced
Mhm.
throughout it. And they kind of went into my spinal cord and kind of like a Kundalini energy. And this part of it is like, it feels like it opened, like it's like
Mhm.
so, but I feel a little bit more grounded. I've been kind of like after the retreat, I've been feeling like, wah! So it's kind of like, oh,
Mhm.
thank you.
Wow.
Mhm. Mhm.
Maybe for one more person, if somebody wants to share anything else. And if not, we can, no pressure.
Yeah, I was definitely feeling my body just moving into that, whatever direction. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Okay, I'm going to start our recording again.
Mm.
So we're
Thank
all
you.
just sort of like coming back from that deep movement. And when we invoke the sacred geometric light emanations like this, many of these wise teachers will stay with us, sometimes for 3 to 7 days, as much as that, just continuing to minister in the way. When this technology was being delivered, Spirit showed it almost like when you hang an IV bag and then it just like slowly drips. And so it's like the flames will give that initial connection, and then they'll just like give you what you can integrate, little drips at a time, so that your biospiritual system can really calibrate. So just you'll notice that you're going to continue feeling sacred support from this beyond just this meditation.
Yes. And these gatherings are recorded and they're placed on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/soulfield experience. If you want to do this treatment again, or if you want to revisit some to help you stay grounded, I'm sharing in the chat some links of for our Facebook group. It's facebook.com/groups/soulfield. Our YouTube channel, as well as at Soulfield Experience. Instagram is the Soulfield, and our website, soulfield.org. Our website also, if you put soulfield.org/calendar, you can actually put these gatherings on your calendar so you don't miss them. So it's on your calendar automatically and it reminds you. And I also put a link to our PayPal for tithing. And we want to say, Luminaria and I and everybody is very grateful for your donations and your tithing, because it has helped us really provide what we're providing here, not just for the retreat, but also every time when we gather here, everything that we're planning, it really helps us support this movement. So it's really, really nice. Our next meditation is going to be February 1st, for February 5th. It's Wednesday, February 5th. And the next Soulfield gathering is going to be February 9th. So it's the second Sunday of every month. So we'll do
Ooh.
our closing prayer.
We are deeply grateful to have experienced miraculous communion with our holy wholeness in the soul field. We wholeheartedly receive the upliftment of one another's communion and blessed soul light. As we close this formal gathering, we each in our own way will continue dwelling in the soul field and supporting our collective evolution. With deep gratitude, we thank one another and all our angels, guides, and guardians, remembering that as we minister to ourselves, we uplift one another. We encourage the magic that we co-created to ripple out right now in this very moment to all our relations for the benefit of all beings.
Estamos profundamente agradecidos por esta experiencia milagrosa de comunión con nuestro ser sagrado aquí en el campo del alma. De todo corazón recibimos la comunión de cada uno de nosotros y de la luz de nuestra alma divina. Al culminar formalmente esta congregación, cada uno de nosotros, de manera personal, permaneceremos en el campo del alma, apoyando nuestra evolución colectiva. Con profunda humildad, agradecemos el uno al otro y a nuestros ancestros, ángeles, guías y guardianes de luz. Recordando que cuando predicamos con nuestro ejemplo, nos elevamos el uno al otro y alentamos la magia que acabamos de co-crear para que se expanda a todos para el beneficio de la humanidad. So as you are still soaking in this energy, because I feel like I haven't left this energy yet, it's still soaking around. Make that room in your life to maybe stay a little longer in this energy. Reach out in the group or on Facebook if you need support, but just stay connected, grounded and connected.
And as always, you all know this, but Nancy and I gather multiple times a week. We hold you all in our prayer field. We are with you in the soul field. We are always all together in the soul field, and we have strength there together.
Yes. All right. Thank you for joining us. Let's blow out our candles. Thank you.
Thank you, loves. Have a beautiful,
Thank you, everybody.
we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.